We were joking that, like, Iris would reject your offering if you weren't gay enough. And that was the first thing that popped into my head when Grover
That can't be it, because Grover did it.
I would argue Grover is maybe one of the straightest characters in the Percy Jackson universe.
I disagree.
Welcome back to Monster Donut, a literary and historical deep dive into the Percy Jackson series and all of its following spin-offs. I'm Emily, a classic scholar-ish.
And I'm Phoebe, a dramaturg and story consultant.
Today we are talking about Percy Jackson, the Olympians, Season 2, Episode 7, I Go Down with the Ship. Maybe this is sacrilegious, but I loved the fact that, like, we came into this whole episode knowing the point A and also having a rough idea of the point B based on the book, but, like, having zero idea of how we were gonna get. Like, it's like 30 minutes of material for, like, not that long a scene in the book. So it's just like, what is going to happen?
And even, like, because of the way that episode 6 ended, it, like, physically could not be at all, like, the chapter in the book anymore.
Yeah.
Like, even what we knew of the chapter in the book wasn't helpful.
No, I loved it.
Before we begin, of course, a spoiler warning. We will be talking plenty about this entire book series. I think specifically about Percy Jackson today, like all the way through book 5. Yeah. But short stories are fair game, Heroes of Olympus, Trials of Apollo, anything within the Percy Jackson universe. Spoilers are on the table, so you've been warned. All right, we begin with
kind of the scene we were hoping for, but also not the scene we were hoping for.
I guess if the scene we were hoping for is watching Thalia die.
From Luke's perspective, which it seems like we are not going to be getting.
I think we might get it next episode.
Really? This
is part of my big theory. This episode is setting something up, and if I'm right, it's crazy, and I'm scared.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong, I'll be embarrassed because I'm like so sure.
So me, every time we read a new book where I'm like, guys, I've completely figured it out. And
No, I see exactly what they're setting up right now. Like, to the point where I'm like, oh, but if I'm right, I don't even want to say it because I'll have spoiled it for everyone.
You know what my big prediction is for episode 8? We open on either Luke or Thalia teaching Annabeth how to fight in a flashback. That's my prediction. I feel like they're doing a lot of neat, cute little parallels to Season 1 beats in Season 2, and that's one I would love to see come back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but we open on Baby Beth, and
yes.
we see that scene we sort of saw the beginning of a little bit in episode 4, with the three Furies coming down, Thalia turning to make her final stand. But now we see a little more detail. Specifically, we see Thalia kind of assume a stance that looks a lot like, I think, her stance in the tree. So the stance she has in the transition shot, she's sort of holding the spear back with one hand, but her offhand is down. But the tree, when you see it later, it looks like she's, preparing to throw the spear. Her offhand is in front of her, extended, as though she's, like, aiming with it, which it's interesting because I think it draws attention to the fact that the pose of the tree is she's, like, about to release a weapon instead of, like, dying on the ground, which I think introduces a little bit of mystery that this flashback continues as to what exactly happened.
Yeah.
Because then there's a transition moment with lightning where we see it's night, and the Furies are coming down, and it transitions to the tree being there. Chiron and a bunch of campers are with Luke and Annabeth and Grover, and he's giving this whole speech.
Chiron is telling the campers, Thalia Grace, daughter of Zeus, has made the ultimate sacrifice, and now her spirit will protect us, just as she protected the ones she loved. And Luke says, what are you talking about? What's that mean? He says she defeated her assailants at the cost of her own life. Zeus, in his mercy, has honored her bravery by giving her a new form of life. Luke says, what? Where's her body? Where's Thalia? I loved the contrast here between the way that Chiron is talking and the way that Luke talks. Because he's talking about her in these very, like, lofty ways. Like, he's already mythologizing her the morning after she died. He's already, like, absorbed her into his world. And Luke is just like shouting at him from the other side, still on like the human side, and bringing it all right back down to earth. Like, where's her body?
Body, I also flagged because I was, as we know, I mean, we haven't gotten into it. Well, we sort of did a little bit in episode 3 when he says we're building Kronos a new body. But like Luke and body is specifically important. Especially because we know he's about to sacrifice his own body to bring Kronos back in a move that he thinks is him protecting people, saving the world, I'm sure. Him asking, though, like, where's her body, where's Thalia, though, was interesting. Because this whole time I've assumed that he watched her die.
Yeah, he and Annabeth.
And so this is the other bit that kind of furthers that mystery. It asks a question that I think I've never really asked in, like, specifics, which is, like, what actually happened? Like, did something we don't know about happen?
I think yes. I think in the show, they're doing something.
Yeah.
I have a theory about what it is.
The great theory.
This is the great theory. I'm like so certain, based on like Chiron and his lying ways. I'm so certain that we're gonna find out through watching this actually play out next episode that the Furies aren't to blame for Thalia dying. I think it's Zeus's fault. I think Zeus changed her into a tree to stop her from reaching 16. Because she already hated him, and it was the safest option.
If that happens, I'll be thrilled.
This is kind of jumping ahead, but if we have already given away the twist at the end of the book, with, like, Thalia might come back, we kind of need something else to replace it, and so in my head, I'm like, there's going to be a flashback that reveals that this is what really happened. This is partially inspired by the fact that there is a track on the soundtrack called What Really Happened. We're going to get a flashback to what really happened and realize with, like, horror, oh no, it's actually kind of bad that Thalia's back because she has a really good reason to hate her dad and want Zeus dead and to side with Luke.
No, that's a good one. I think I was, like, there's something about Thalia and what they're setting up with her in this episode that's sort of the base of my thoughts on it, that even if you're not, like, 100% right, they're doing something with her.
They're doing something. They're doing something. And, like, if I'm right, I'm going to be talking about Chiron as our final lying captain of the season. Is what's coming in the next episode.
Oh, I'm obsessed. That's so good.
Anyway, imagine showing up at this camp that you hate and your best friend is killed and the camp activities director is like, now she's going to protect camp. Like, shut up. Like, even beyond the camp representing something that she never wanted to be a part of, it's like, I don't even know you people. She didn't even know you people. I'd lose it too, is what I'm saying.
Also, can Charlie just get an Emmy already? I mean, come on. The pain in his voice. I mean, there's so much more to talk about of his performance this episode, but like...
EGOT.
Oh my god.
I also want to talk about this moment after this where Annabeth hears Thalia's voice coming from the tree.
Did this a little remind you of the straitjacket dream Percy has?
I didn't think about it until now, but yeah.
What? That's one of your favorite dreams.
I know, but I was distracted by golden light spreading through the cracks in the tree. Very Kronos-esque is what I was thinking about watching this.
I mean, that. But she says, hey, kid, let's get out of here. And then Annabeth wakes up bound to a cot in a way that I felt like is kind of reminiscent. It's not straitjacket-esque, but it's giving, like, detained... I don't know.
It's giving detained being tied to a bed.
But it's just like Annabeth being like, you know, bound and like unable to move her arms. And then like hearing the line that's very close to one of us has to get out of here from Percy's dream of Thalia, which is the first appearance of Thalia.
That's her first line, yeah.
And we talked about it a lot. Because I remember you saying she was right. Like one of them did have to get out of there. I think this episode is starting to really seriously ask the question, not who was Thalia or who knew her best, but what if Thalia isn't gone, and what if she is the key instead of Percy?
Yeah.
I'm just going to flag, I was thinking a lot about dreams this episode, too. But, yeah, then we open on Annabeth under the fleece, tied to a cot, but this cot was not just lying around, okay? And she's got a pillow There's fresh sheets. She's tucked into bed. Somebody tucked her into bed, and it was Luke.
And it was Luke. He also, it seems like, took her jacket off, presumably to target her wounds better, and like has it lying on the table nearby. He's taking good care of her. Mm-hmm. So Allison comes and grabs the fleece off of her, which is so funny of her. Just making that decision for everyone and being like, she's healed enough.
Yeah.
We realized that we were docked at Port Jefferson.
Mm-hmm. On Long Island.
On Long Island.
There's a little sign that says safety drill at 4:30 that's like in the docking bay.
Yeah, this sign.
Is it a cover for them going to launch an attack? Like what's going on here? It seems like all the demigods are still on board.
Yeah, I spent some time watching all of these people walk out onto the dock, trying to figure out like how many of you people know what's going on. Because in the book it's like zombie guests. Mm-hmm. But based on the video that plays in the random room that they're in, it seems like everyone there is sort of aware. There was a point in this episode where I started wondering about, like, the life that people can build on the Princess Andromeda. Mm-hmm. And wondering how many people who were walking out onto the dock were just random civilians, or how many were, like, demigods who are being given sanctuary on the Princess Andromeda. Because I was watching these, like, parents with children, and I was like, I just wonder. How many of you are like adult demigods who aren't here to fight for whatever Luke's cause is, but you are here for a good boat?
Or you don't have to hide.
Where you don't have to hide, where like, because it sounds like from what we know of demigod life, sometimes it's going home to a family, but sometimes it's being homeless. Yeah. It's being on the run from monsters for your entire life.
I was thinking a lot this episode about the fact that it seems like all the demigods we see that are on Luke's side are older. Like, they're all kind of, it seems, like of an age to have graduated from camp at this point.
Yeah.
And how, I feel like it's an interesting mirror into, like, this theme also that comes up in a lot of, like, coming-of-age stories of, like, disillusionment with childhood and, like, becoming an adult and all of this stuff, where I was like, it is interesting to me, like, all of these demigods are kind of growing up in this system and then turning around and seemingly being like, I want to change that. I don't like that.
Especially because when you leave Camp Half-Blood, like, it's not like they have, you know, New Rome University or New Rome in general. And so Luke, in doing this, is, like, providing them with the things that don't really exist outside of Camp Half-Blood for demigods, which is, like, community and safety and literal luxuries. I was thinking about this mostly later on in the episode when we see the table with chips and, the like, half-empty sodas. And it was this brief moment where we got to see the demigods on Luke's side as the kids, young adults that they are, who have made friends and built a home here where they can, like, leave their chips and their mytho-magic set on the table and come back to it later, which a lot of demigods don't even have the luxury to have that.
Well, they do try to steal Aiden's cards, which is not cool.
They do try to steal Aiden's cards, but I think that's an Aiden problem. I think that's a we don't like Aiden thing.
Meanwhile, my next note is, I love Aiden. Who is this guy?
Oh, I love Aiden. I love Aiden so much. Speaking of Aiden, though, he is who is sweet-talking us, or charm-speaking us, onto the dock. I wasn't expecting to see charm speak in the show at all.
I wrote down the implications of us introducing charm speak before Selena.
Yes. So Aiden is Lord. He has a tiny scythe lapel pin.
Little pin. I want one.
I need it so bad. He has never met Percy before, so again, probably a graduated camper. I find it interesting how much Percy's name is being passed around, at least among the army. But Percy and Clarice get into this argument. Percy wanting to go get Annabeth first, Clarice wanting to go get the fleece first.
I felt there was like two different kind of episode 4 interesting callbacks here, where this argument between Percy and Clarice kind of feels like a little to me like the beach standoff, just in terms of like the demand of like, give me all of your quest resources and I'm gonna go do it type situation between Percy and Clarice. But then later in episode 4, they have this legitimate moment of like bonding, and Clarice is vulnerable with Percy. And here he uses that against her, and specifically uses her prophecy to manipulate her.
You can see Percy throughout this scene trying to figure out the right direction to hit her from, where she will just listen to him.
Yeah.
Because he starts out with logic. He starts out saying, the fleece will be heavily guarded. They'll sound the alarm the second we grab it. That's why we need to rescue Annabeth first. And when Clarice says, no, I'm not taking that risk, and tells him to give her all of his resources, he says, what I'm saying is, why don't we work together? Which is not what he's saying. He's saying, let me be in control, let me make all the decisions, after proving that he can't be trusted with them last episode. It's basically just him saying, like, let me put Annabeth before the quest, please, 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 please. But he's like, no, what I'm saying is, like, we need to work together. And she, again, is like, no. And so that's when he resorts to, okay, I'm going to go for the heart then.
Yeah, I'm going to hurt you.
I'm going to hurt you instead. To which I wrote down in my notes, boo with so many O's. It's just like, she opened up to you, and you've insulted her twice in the last 2 episodes with the things she told you in that conversation. Like we talked about last time with him, like, completely abandoning camp after she told him that that's, like, the only place she feels like she has. And then here, throwing her prophecy that she trusted you with back in her face. Mm-hmm. I just think any bullying that Percy gets after this episode is justified. But they've done a great job of not allowing Percy to be right.
Yeah.
Here. It would be so easy to frame this as the correct choice that he wants to make, because it's the heart choice. But after last episode, it's like, you've proven you can't be trusted on this quest. You've proven that you will throw the whole thing away in a split second. And now you're being cruel to Clarice just because she won't let you do what you want. Like, you don't get to be in charge now. Sorry. It's a scene where it's almost hard to be on his side, even though you obviously want him to go save Annabeth.
Do you think that's why? I've been turning over why exactly Aiden says after this all plays out, winning this war is going to be easier than we thought.
I think it's because he just watched the 2 people who are supposed to be on the same side fighting.
I'm wondering now, going after what you just said, if it's also specifically that, like, Percy is unable to convince people. Like, Percy specifically. Because I don't know how much all of the Kronos crew knows about the Great Prophecy, but, like, I feel like they all might know that Percy is probably going to theoretically be, like, playing a major role in how this all goes down. Yeah. And so the guy who's, like, a charm speaker, who's, like, you know, the guy there to, like, persuade people, just watch Percy Jackson completely unable to persuade somebody.
Unable to persuade somebody. Mean.
Deserving of bullying.
Deserves bullying. Got pushed around by his own crew. Loses the argument, like the great Percy Jackson. Yeah, and that they can't be on the same page. Even for, like, a rescue mission, you know? Even to stop Kronos. Something else from this scene that's interesting is we get the introduction of Iris messages are not working.
Yeah. My
assumption is that because Luke used it for evil, Iris is in trouble with Zeus. Like, I kind of think that the rogue demigods are right. They're on the right track.
Yeah. Although they also say, it's not in the subtitles, but the first one thrown out is, I thought it was Athena. So Athena is thrown out, which had me thinking, like, I wonder, maybe Athena's like, oh.
Don't talk to my daughter.
She's grounded. I love introducing this question.
But I also I wonder if it's going to be down throughout next season also. Like, if this is just sort of setting up for the end of the season that Iris messages just don't work. And that allows us next season, with Annabeth missing, to not be able to, like, ask Iris, show me Annabeth.
Yeah. You know, that is a very good point.
It gives them an out for next season, basically, if Iris messages don't work.
So then we cut to Luke in front of the coffin, playing with the cursed blade, and I am now more convinced than ever that he suspects this is the cursed blade.
You think so?
It could just be really great foreshadowing. It could.
That's how I was reading it, was just Luke standing there in front of Kronos, twirling the blade that he will use to stop Kronos in a few years. Is just kind of a fun thing to do. Yeah. But he's definitely got, like, there is something going on in his head with the way he, like, picked up that dagger and has just been staring at it for this entire episode, just carrying it around. It's like he forgot that he was carrying it around when he goes down to see Annabeth and she's like, and you have my dagger. And he's like, oh, yeah.
I mean, this is, I think, an episode of Luke. Luke's definitely wavering this episode, I think.
Oh, yeah. He's got problems.
Yeah.
But I think even if he doesn't know this dagger's fate, it's still a reminder of, like, if the lore is the same as the books, it's a reminder of how, and that girl whose fate he changed.
Yeah.
And the last time he held it, he was probably, on the run with Annabeth and Thalia, or had just gotten to camp.
It's his evil monster donut bracelet.
Right. It's his evil monster donut bracelet. But where Annabeth is blaming herself for a lot of that, Luke is blaming pretty much anyone else. So
then Allison shows up and is basically accusing Luke of, like, she's basically clocking the wavering loyalty. She says about the fleece, and you're using it to heal the enemy instead of healing Kronos. And then she lies and says Annabeth threw her off the ship, which is not what happened.
She threw herself off the ship. Yeah, there are a couple lines in this moment from Luke that I found very interesting. First of all, she's not the enemy, his response to that moment. Clarifying that to his own people when Percy and Annabeth aren't around to hear it. Like when you'd expect whatever act he's putting on to fall away. It's a moment of like, this was never an act. She is not the enemy in his head. Something I was thinking a lot about in this episode was the thing that John said to us when we interviewed John last season about how honest and authentic Luke is in season 1. And I think it's still sort of true in season 2. Like, he is so genuine when he's talking to Annabeth later on. Mm-hmm. He is his authentic self.
Yeah.
I think most of the time that we see him, you expect him to lie, and he's not a trickster in that way.
That's honestly so interesting, too, considering you've already kind of flagged the lying and the people calling each other out for lying in this episode. And it's interesting how, like, of all the characters, Luke isn't.
There's also this moment when she comes in, he says, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Putting this where it belongs." And he says, "It's my call when to do that. I found it." Instead of, like, I'm in charge. Like, we're doing finders keepers instead. He doesn't even try to pull rank here.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think a little bit about, like, what Charlie was saying when we asked him about being a ship captain in our interview, where he was saying, like, he wants to share it with people. That has me, like, I wonder if he is trying to, like, have it be a kind of more democratic, egalitarian system.
Yeah. Even though he's given himself the Admiralty suite, the people who are standing at his side, like, also have a good amount of power on this ship, which will come back to bite him.
My last note on the scene is, what's going on with Charlie's face when he puts the fleece on the coffin?
Right?
I can't read this expression, but it's not triumphant.
It's not triumphant. It looks a little unsure. Yeah. It looks a little bit, are we scared?
Allison kind of had to strong arm into doing it. Mm-hmm. Why?
I think the doubts are coming more from, not from, like, bringing back Kronos at this point. I think it's more from what we were just talking about, that, like, I can feel the people who work for me. I can feel the people who are supposed to be on my side not listening to me. And, like, there's this pressure coming from the people who are looking to him to lead, and that he feels like he needs to please them. Because, like, there's a point where he takes a step toward Allison, and you think he's going to try and, like, argue with her. The music kind of gets darker, and you're like, oh, he's going to argue with her. And then instead he just takes the fleece and puts it on the coffin. And, like, I think maybe some of what's going on his face is, like, this wasn't when he wanted to do it. This wasn't how he wanted to do it. But he feels like he has to do it right now. And there are all these people at his back that are relying on him. And he is realizing, like, what attempting to lead people who have very strong opinions, what leading a revolution is about to look like.
The next few scenes to me also, I think, really highlight the, like, I think it really is fleshing out the rogue demigod side of things.
And the, like, very familiar, comfortable dynamic that they have with each other.
There's a line when Percy, like, traps another one of them while he goes to free Blackjack, where she's like, this isn't funny, after he traps her. Like, she's not like, I'm under attack. She's like, oh, they're playing a prank on me.
It's, again, like, watching them, I can feel, like we were just talking about, the, like, authenticity to how much Luke wants to, like, build this as a place for demigods, like we talked about earlier. Because he is cultivating an actual community within the rogue demigod army. Like, they genuinely seem close and safe and comfortable.
They feel almost like the cool older kids from what you see from afar in their friend group, where you're like...
Until they start playing their nerd game.
Speak for yourself. I was jealous of the nerd games.
I'm also jealous of the nerd games, but I did think it was funny how Clarice starts rolling her eyes at them. I was like...
Ma'am, you packed your mythical magic set onto your ship. Maybe she's rolling her eyes because she's like, I could take them there too. She's like, ugh, they only have a Hydra? My set
I literally have the
wearer.
entire out-of-print icon set with me on the Ironclad, but it blew up, so...
Oh my god, you're so right! Ah, forget my crew. My cards!
So back on the deck, we get to see Percy meet Blackjack for the first time.
There is something I do want to talk about Blackjack. Because Blackjack is the first, I think, instance of things speaking to our characters that we do not get to hear. 'Cause this happens a lot this episode.
Yeah. Blackjack Kronos parallels.
Literally.
I saw Cam Silas post about this, saying that, like, Percy and Blackjack kind of having a Han and Chewie dynamic where you can only understand through the things that Percy says. It's not a bad idea.
I do think it's a funny bit.
I don't mind it. It is a part of the, like, trademark humor of Percy Jackson to have a Pegasus with, like, a strong New York accent. But I personally don't mind not having talking animals around.
And yet, you're a Disney kid.
None of my favorite characters are the talking animals. The best ones are silent. I stand with the wizard.
That got me. I did not see that coming.
So we're back down in the bowels of the ship. Annabeth trying to get free and then pretending to sleep all over again. It's so funny how many times she does this in this episode.
Trickster. Trickster.
But the person who is entering is Percy, who announces himself with Wise Girl.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the best use of the nicknames so far. But Percy tells Annabeth that he's there to rescue her. She tells him that they can't leave because we can't leave without the fleece. He tells her that Clarice is on it. The fleece is her priority. Annabeth is his. She says she's right. The fleece is all that matters. I was like, oh, after last episode.
It is interesting thinking about this all from Annabeth's perspective, because she got knocked out pretty early in episode 6. So
Yeah.
she doesn't know what Luke did.
Yeah, it seems like she puts it together during her conversation with Luke pretty quickly. But at this point, yeah, I don't think she knows. But speaking of, Luke enters. Percy goes invisible. Luke is there just to check on her. Annabeth kind of plays like the grateful captive for Luke while she's talking to him. After, how do you feel? She says, alive. I'm guessing because of you, and you brought back my dagger too. Thanks. He says, it was mine first, remember? Things always end up where they should.
Feels like such a weighted line in the Monster Donut bracelet season.
Uh-huh. It's also, I mean, he relates it to the fleece, which is basically what Allison said earlier, where she says, putting this where it belongs. There was a moment where I was like, are you implying that you're trying to steal her dagger and that with you is where it belongs? But no, he just puts it next to her jacket. He just gives it back to her. He says the fleece is working its magic now, all thanks to Percy. He defied the will of the gods by handing it over. Kid's got heart, I'm not gonna lie.
I like the way Luke's talking. He's like, and Percy did that for me.
And Percy did that because he's joining our side.
It's like, you know what? Gosh darn it, kid, you got heart. I'll let you on the team. I think when the scene began, when Luke entered, the tension I was also feeling is like, oh, when's he gonna notice that someone's cut her ropes?
I know. I was like, Annabeth, hide it better.
But like, in a way, but then like this conversation happened and he's so earnestly talking to her. I understand why he's just like fully letting his guard down. Like he's not being careful in this scene.
When he very genuinely says like, and he ended up saving the world. It just reminded me of the way that he talks to Percy in the end of season 1. He just so deeply believes in this cause.
And then on the other side too, it felt like Annabeth was also being so earnest with him. I wrote down like it almost feels like she's trying to use charm speak on him, where she just keeps saying over and over again, just bring me the fleece.
Yeah, but I think that was also partially a message to Percy. Saying, leave now, go get it, and bring it back. And then he finally leaves the room.
Okay,
Stop making sure that I'm okay.
I did not clock that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Annabeth 6 steps ahead.
We cut between this scene and a couple other moments. The first being Grover and Tyson.
I love that they're just pairing Grover up with everyone this season.
I loved seeing these two interact. Like, I cannot wait to see these two on the Pan quest in season 4. Stealing a car without even questioning whether one of them can drive.
Yeah. And I love this moment of subversion where Tyson's like, maybe we should call in someone stronger. more wise, someone who can help, and like the waves in the background.
Yeah.
And you hear, I think it's like, it sounds like Poseidon music starting, and you're like, oh, they're gonna ask Poseidon? And then they call Sally, and you're like, oh, of course. Of course.
Right. Of course. Who's in Montauk, conveniently.
With highlights.
With highlights? I didn't notice.
She looks Bonder. Maybe it's just the lighting, but it looks like she got highlights. She's in a very nice outfit. She's in a bougie grocery store.
Did you also sort of pick up on why she might be there?
Oh, absolutely. What gave it away? The blue Prius, the bumper sticker that says "I'd rather be teaching," or the license plate that says MFA.
Yeah. I was like, wow.
No, we're definitely soft launching the Blowfist relationship.
Yeah. It took me a minute, though. I was like, did she steal this car? What's this car? And then realized.
I put it all together when I saw the bumper sticker. I love it. Obsessed.
Who could have guessed Prius cameo so early on?
So where is the Blowfist casting? Luke Arnold, where have you been?
Luke Arnold, show up.
Oh, there's one other note I made on the scene, actually, just in light of what we were talking about before. Why are they lying to Sally? Why are they pretending everything's fine? They were just
I think
like
they just
on a
don't
field
want
trip.
her to worry.
I just love like Tyson's trying to lie to Sally, and then Grover's like, "Give me the phone."
And then still lies bad.
So that was great. Love that. Next scene, insane.
Yeah. Allison, so casually, hanging out with the coffin. Mm-hmm. Reading through her magazine. The coffin starts speaking to her, but we are not allowed to hear what it says.
No.
Even she seems like...
I went back, I rewatched the beginning of this scene like 5 times, trying to figure out if this is the first time this has happened.
I was also wondering this, if like he mostly just talks to Luke.
She doesn't seem that surprised to hear his voice, though.
But she does seem a little bit surprised by what he says to her.
It seems like it's what he's saying, not that he's saying it. Also, didn't think about this until the end. When Percy and Luke hear Kronos, they're in pain. When Allison hears Kronos, she's fine. Discuss. I have a theory, actually. I mean, obviously Percy doesn't want Kronos to be speaking to him. And I think so much of this episode is Luke clearly having some kind of crisis of faith with Kronos. So in my head, that makes sense as to, like, why. What's really interesting, though, is Luke seems like he's in much more pain than Percy is. And part of me thinks it's connected to how abusively we saw Kronos treat Luke in season 1. But why? I mean, he's doing it to Percy, too. So it feels like it's not intentionally. Like, there's something else going on. Because I don't think he would be wanting Percy to feel pain when he's trying to talk to him, because that would make Percy not want to talk to him.
Yeah, if he can do it without inflicting pain like this, he'd probably be doing it to Percy also.
Yeah. So it makes me wonder if maybe, like, because I think Allison, as we've kind of talked about before, she's sort of like, if you will, the most pure-hearted of the Kronos followers. She just seems like she's all
the
in.
most Kronos of them all, yeah.
And so it makes me wonder, like, maybe that's the reason.
I think that makes sense to me for why any of them feels any pain. I think that he's inflicting the pain very purposefully on Luke, though. I think, like, the intense pain that Luke is feeling in this episode is Kronos trying to hurt him.
And part of me was like, I wonder if this kind of goes back maybe to something we talked about a bit with Luke when we were talking about the books, was that, like, Luke is definitely not Kronos' first choice for, like, his lieutenant here. Yep. And part of me is wondering if maybe this talking to Allison is Kronos, like, feeling out, like, maybe I need a new lieutenant.
Which is kind of why I was like, I do kind of think this is maybe the first time he's reached out to Allison. Because I think Luke is wavering a little too much for Kronos' liking in this episode. I think he still likes having Luke as his pawn here because he knows that Luke is easy to manipulate using his anger and his fear of him. And he has brought him this army. He has brought him the fleece. But he knows that, like, if Luke gets too close to Annabeth, if he keeps having this conversation with her, like, that connection is dangerous for him to have. The information she's giving him is dangerous for him to have. Which is why the directive is go kill Annabeth. There was a moment where I was like, oh, Luke, you might want to watch out.
I thought that too. But then I like rewatched the episode and I was like, no, she's very clearly saying we got to kill Annabeth, which is unfortunate because I had a moment where I was like, what if? What if he told me
No,
to
but
kill
like
Luke?
before she says it, like when she walks in and says like anyone up to kill a traitor, I was like,
Yeah.
Luke? Because he's even on the back of his like little photo card that comes with the ultimate guide, it says that like he's also known as traitor. So I was like, not traitor. Not my friend traitor.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was worried for him for a moment, but like, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but it kind of was justified.
Yeah. Well, then also part of me was thinking back in like episode 3, she seems very intent on killing Annabeth, and you were saying it because you felt like she wanted to cut Luke off from his connections to Camp Half-Blood like that. And so part of me was like, well, I wonder if she has been hearing Kronos, and this isn't the first time, if maybe that has come from him before.
But after this, we're back into Luke and Annabeth.
I wrote down, I think, this entire subsequent conversation in quotes.
Yeah, so some of Luke's first lines in this scene are, the siege has already broken down camp to the point where they're ready to surrender. They just don't know it yet. If they get the fleece, it'll make them want to fight back, and then they will die. That's why I can't let you have it. Just don't kill them.
Yeah.
I like the fact that he is blaming them, like, now I have to go and kill you. Like,
I flagged the line specifically, if they get the fleece, it'll make them want to fight back. This is when my gears started turning a little bit, I think, on like what the overarching theme of this episode might be. And when I say overarching theme, what I actually feel like is there's many points in this episode where it feels like we are getting a specific callback to a big theme of a prior episode in this season. So like this line here, for example, I think feels like such an overt reference to this idea we talked about in episode 5 of hope being something that could be negative. Like hope could be a weapon used to trap people. Because he's basically saying if they get the fleece, they'll have hope. And I can't let that happen because that hope is going to kill people. And it's so what Cersei's arguing in 5. Where she's saying, no, I have to keep them here. They can't get hope to leave. They get just enough hope to stay, to trust me. But any more than that, and it's dangerous for them. I think there's also, we saw earlier, using prophecy and words to manipulate people. Those are 2 big things we've talked about a lot this season. Words, I think, a little bit more with, like, episode 2 and, like, the rules, but also, like, overall with the prophecies, like, episode 3, like, 5, like there's just a lot of like prophecy this season specifically and how to interpret it and how you can also use it to manipulate people. And then like later on in this episode, I think we do get a lot of questioning of like the faith you put in your leaders, specifically with Luke and Kronos. But also as we kind of flagged at the beginning, I'll add Chiron to that list.
yeah, I don't trust that man.
Because I was sort of thinking like, what does this all mean? That they're all converging all these threads together. And I was just sitting and I was realizing that like all of these themes I think actually kind of converge around Thalia Grace of like prophecy and uncertainty of like having your faith put into someone, being a protector, being responsible, being mythologized, being a tool of hope, but also that being a kind of double-edged sword. And then I was thinking even more about it, and I realized that, like, all of the dreams that the characters have had this season also are about her. Where we've got that dream callback later in the episode with Percy, and him seeing her maybe being on the Kronos side of things, question mark. We also have Annabeth's sort of dream at the beginning of this episode, seeing Thalia return. And then I was thinking about Thalia Jackson's dream at the beginning of this season, with the golden drachma spinning, one side a scythe, one side a trident. And I was like, is this entire season actually just about what side Thalia is going to fall on?
So the entire season is just Thalia discussions in a trench coat.
I don't know. To me, it was all connecting together of like all of these different themes do relate to her in some way and also relate to the question specifically of like, who is she? Because I think we're seeing like over and over and over again, that's sort of 2 sides of a lot of these aspects of things, the good and the bad of hope, the good and the bad of mythologizing people, the good and the bad of prophecy. I think we see the good of it at the end of this episode. The good and the bad of putting faith in your leaders. There's just so much echoing through it. And all of these things are like, which way are we landing with this person who it feels like a huge question of how this series is going to land is, who is she actually and what is she going to do?
That also relates to a question I felt like this episode was asking, which was, why are you standing where you're standing? Like, why is this the hill you're going to die on? Is the way I was going to
Why, Thalia? Why this hill?
Why is this a hill you're going to die on? Because it's an episode where Luke is being confronted with reasons to doubt Kronos. But also, we've got Percy and Clarice on opposite sides of, like, the best way to do this quest, and then actually questioning that throughout the episode and ending up on the other side of what they said they were going to do by the end of it. Even that obviously relates to Thalia.
What I like about bringing that possibility of bringing her back forward instead of having it be a twist at the end is it also, because I've mentioned like the convergence of all these themes kind of being tied to Thalia, but then here's where we get the turning point where it's like, and we're going to get an answer. Like now it's not, these are just a bunch of open-ended questions. We are going to see which way the coin falls. And not to get too far ahead of it, but the way episode 4 fundamentally challenges Clarice's will and Fatal Flaw, the way episode 5 fundamentally challenges Annabeth's will and Fatal Flaw, the way episode 6 fundamentally challenges Percy's Fatal Flaw, and the way 7 is now fundamentally challenging Luke. It is throwing everything at Luke in terms of getting him to maybe go the way he never thought he would go at the beginning. Obsessed. Love. Anyway, we're mid-scene.
No, we're like 2 seconds into it, actually. But, I mean, yeah, to bring this back to the scene that we were talking about, this is the point where Annabeth says, what if I told you something that could change your mind? Yeah. And he says, nothing can change my mind. But she tells him that she had a vision and that she thinks that the fleece can bring Thalia back. He's pretty reluctant to allow this thought to enter his mind. He says, no, it's not possible. Thalia's gone. Annabeth says, is she? We weren't there with her at the end. We never saw what really happened. Suspicious.
She says, in my heart, I always knew.
And he says, you wished it was true. And finally she says, so did you, Luke. Just admit it. This is Thalia we're talking about. Remember, we take care. And he finishes that with, of our own. Wow. And that's when he really starts to, like, he actually listens to her and starts to allow himself to consider this. And he says, if the fleece could bring Thalia back, Kronos would have told me before I poisoned the tree. Which, like, the horror of realizing that you stabbed and poisoned and have been trying to kill your best friend this entire season. Thinking that you either leave her trapped as a tree for forever or you put her out of her misery, and those are your only options. Going through, like, the turmoil of having to make that choice for her. And then finding out that just bringing her back was an option, that there was a third choice here this entire time, which was just to save her. Like, that's awful.
This could also be a moment where he's realizing just how much control Kronos has over him.
Control and realizing that he has fallen into being a pawn. You know? Like, he was so confident that Kronos has been working with him as a partner, has been telling him the truth. Like in episode 3 when he says, he speaks directly to me now with such, like, confidence, like, we're partners in this. And then realizing he's using me.
Yeah.
This episode does something fun where it's like, back in episode 3 and in episode 6, we have this question of what can you give Percy or take away from Percy to make him consider giving the fleece to Luke? And then immediately after that, we're back on the Princess Andromeda. Immediately after episode 6, it's what can you give Luke to make him consider giving the fleece to Percy? And, I mean, Thalia is the answer.
Annabeth then responds, ask him to tell you the truth. And then Kronos does get in Luke's head in a way that is clearly excruciating for him. Like, as soon as it feels like, I think, Annabeth starts to get the upper hand here on Luke, it's like Kronos is like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like Luke started to think too many thoughts that aren't pro-Kronos, and Kronos is like...
Yeah. The second he starts to stray for a moment. There was a moment when they had that, like, we take care of our own line that I was like, is that not, like, sort of Luke's philosophy still? Like, that is a part of Thalia that he is continuing to carry on, as we've talked about with the community that he's building here. He's trying to take care of his own.
Yeah, it's and I think you've been saying this for a while. It's just the first time it's really clicked to me too. It's like that's what he's doing in Cabin 11.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's taking that. I almost said we're all in this together mentality, but I'm not saying
We're
that.
all in this together mentality.
I think you've made this point before of like that's probably why he stayed so long for Annabeth, but also because like there's still a part of him that's like this responsibility he feels. It's like kind of carrying on Thalia's legacy in a way of like, so what, who cares? Like we're all here for each other.
Like so much of what he does now is sort of inspired by Thalia. And that line really like highlighted that for me, especially within this episode and especially within this realization that he's having that like he could have had Thalia back or he could have Thalia back.
Mm-hmm.
So we cut back to like the locker room or wherever Clarice is currently hiding. Allison barges in, says, who wants to kill a traitor? And when they say that Luke might be mad, she says, my orders come from Kronos directly. If Luke gives me any trouble, I might need backup.
Rogue indeed.
She's bringing the others not to help her kill Annabeth, but to stand up to Luke in case she needs to. And they go with her so quickly. It's already so far out of his hands. Yeah. This is an episode of just watching how little power Luke has on his own ship. Like that moment that we talked about of them playing by finders keepers rules, the army turning on him here, and like Kronos and his conversation at the end. It's like he doesn't at all have the sway here that he needs, or that we might have thought that he had when we watched episode 3. Even though we were watching like Allison really call the shots at the end, you wouldn't think that it would go this far. Where like so quickly. They're all ready to fight Luke if they have to for something that Allison says.
And then further, like, this next bit where Percy goes to get the fleece back, and Kronos is like, I'll tell you the great prophecy.
Yeah. That guy Luke wouldn't tell you, but...
when this part happened and he started saying the actual
when he started
prophecy,
actually saying
I
it.
sat straight up and was like, oh, and I'm wearing corded headphones. I sat straight up so fast, my computer, like, pulled towards me. I was like, what? I think I lost count of how many times I gasped, but that was a big one. I was like...
No, and the longer it goes on, you're like, stop!
How far from the end are we when it cuts off?
He makes it as far as the hero's soul, cursed blade shall, and if you listen closely, you can hear him say reap. But it's like fading away at that point. I don't know if Percy heard that much. It seems like Percy, in my mind, he makes the choice to take the fleece off and cut him off on the line, the hero's soul, because that's when he kind of nods and then grabs it.
He says he doesn't want to know it at the beginning of the season.
He says he doesn't want to know at the beginning of the season. He says, you'd just lie when Kronos offers it.
And then Kronos says, I trust you to decide.
And he lets him go on for a while. He cuts him off at a point where I'm like, I feel like Percy could put together what that next word was. Or at least the audience could put together what that next word was. Because he makes it as far as cursed blade shall. And even if you couldn't really hear reap, something that rhymes with sleep, what will happen to the soul? I don't know. It's a lot of information to be giving us.
I mean, there's a fun symmetry, too, in, like, episode 3, Luke being like, you don't know, in front of the coffin, and Percy being like, I don't want to know. And then Kronos is like, but you want to know, don't you? And then Percy's like, no? And then just runs away.
I told you. No, and I think especially after this season, Percy has been given a lot of knowledge this season. He's been given information about the prophecy and what's in it. He's been given his fatal flaw, which is another form of fate prophecy in a way. He's seen how knowing the prophecy, thinking that he understood it, almost led him to let Annabeth face the sirens alone. He's seen how even knowing his fatal flaw, he still played into it. He knows that the knowledge isn't necessarily useful, it just creates a lot of anxiety. So I feel like part of it is he's comfortable not having that knowledge after this season. But also, I think, it gets to the line about the hero's soul, and he heard Circe say, you might give up your soul. He probably makes that connection is like, oh, please don't tell me.
I enjoy it as subversion so much, too, because I think it's set up as subversion so much more than just, like, you expect to hear the full prophecy, but it's also, like, in a season where so much prophecy has been used in so many ways to manipulate people. It's just such a fun subversion to see Percy, like, hearing the actual words clear as day and just being like, nope. Even after being explicitly told, I'm not necessarily trying to manipulate you. I'm just going to tell you the words. You can decide if they're true or not. It hits, I think that's why this moment hits so hard, is because of, like, all of this buildup of prophecy and then just being like, nope, don't want to know.
I think he also, something that is probably bothering him is that he's hearing Kronos say these words of the prophecy and is believing him. Like, he says, you just lie. And then he starts hearing it and he's like, oh, all of this lines up perfectly with what I know.
It's a meta with the audience, too, because we, like, having read the books, know that this is the real prophecy. So we're just like, oh no, what are you doing? It feels forbidden. Because I'm like, this doesn't happen yet.
I'm like, wait, no. Also, a little note about this scene. Watching Percy approach the coffin with the hat. Anytime it was like Percy and Luke in this episode standing in front of the coffin being like, what if I foreshadowed something? Like, just standing there like, and this imagery that you're seeing right now will come back later. Wink, wink.
So Percy grabs the fleece. Luke arrives.
Luke arrives, and he's not doing well.
No. He's having a bad day. He seems so genuinely surprised and hurt to hear it. And he says, it was you. And then he says, she lied.
The amount of, like, we've talked about this. King of mental gymnastics.
I don't know if Annabeth actually lied to him. So what I'm wondering is, what does he think she lied about?
I think the mental gymnastics I'm talking about are, oh, she was just manipulating me. She was just lying to me. Telling me that, like, the fleece could bring Thalia back so that I would give up the fleece, or so that she could keep me there while you came up here and took the fleece, which he knows is not true, because at the end of the episode he says, why didn't you tell me? Not, is it true?
Yeah.
Like, he does believe her, even after this moment. But I think in this moment he's, like, twisting all of that anger that he's feeling toward Kronos, twisting all of the confusion in his head, making it into, oh, she lied to me. I'm going to redirect all of this anger at you.
Yeah, because there is also a thing, too, where, like, if you're being manipulated a lot, you're more likely to start seeing it in other people, even if that's not what they're doing in their motives, because it's what you're used to seeing. And I think it's also a coping mechanism where it's, like, easier to believe that everyone's manipulative like this, instead of realizing that, like, you're in a particularly bad situation yourself that you need to find a way out of.
It feels like a moment where, I mean, he is not thinking clearly in this moment at all. You can just tell from the moment he walks on screen. And, like, it's not a conscious decision at all to, like, twist all of this toward Percy. It's just, like, he's clearly reeling. Yeah.
He's there and acting antagonistically towards Luke.
Right. It's like, if he were thinking clearly, he might have tried to talk Percy into giving him back the fleece. You know, he isn't at a point with Percy where it's like, the last time I saw you, we worked together on something. There are things you could be doing here that I feel like Luke would have done. They wouldn't have worked, but, like, we know Luke likes to try and talk his way through things. And that's the direction that he might have gone. But, like, he is just not in, like, the mental state to do that.
So when we visited set, they showed us part of this fight scene that Luke and Percy have, like, the beginning. But, like, the way the choreography, I think also because, again, like, we'd seen, like, season 1 choreography. We hadn't seen any of the season 2 fight choreography yet. So this was, like, the first, like, preview of it. And we were like, whoa!
Yeah.
They are beating the shit out of each other.
It's so exciting to see what Luke looks like when he's actually going for the kill. Well, so what I mean is, like, when he's actually attempting to hurt you.
Yeah.
Because the last time we saw him fight with Percy in season 1, he was very explicitly trying not to hurt him until he was. And that entire fight scene, he's, like, backing up. He's just sort of, like, grabbing at Percy's sword arm to try and stop him. He's, you know, not at all fighting like this.
Yeah.
Here he's, like, he's pushing and pushing. And, like, you see how much, even in the fight with Percy last season, you saw how much he, like, grabs and kicks. Like, he's a very physical fighter. He doesn't rely entirely on his sword at all. But here he's like really going for it. He's fast, it's scary. Mm-hmm. Like watching this fight, you're like, oh, Percy, you could not have taken Luke. Mm-hmm. Your plan would not have worked in episode 3.
And there's something about the way this fight is cut. It cuts back and forth also between Clarice fighting.
And Annabeth.
So Clarice grabbed a throwing axe and another spear from the stores on the Princess Andromeda. But she's still, and actually at the end of this episode, it's the only one she has left, is carrying the spear that she whittled in the Cyclops cave, which I don't think I, like, fully flagged when this happened, but, like, whittling down an ore or, like, a young tree or whatever, like whittling it down into a point is what Odysseus uses to blind Polyphemus. So in my notes, I've been referring to it as Clarice's Odysseus spear. Mm-hmm. And then something about the standoff between her and Allison with the bow, which is sort of the other iconic Odysseus weapon at the end of the Odyssey. It's like beginning of the Odyssey, end of the Odyssey, Odysseus weapons.
I also think the fact that that's the only one that she keeps, I feel like it's a point of pride for her.
Yeah.
Like, this is the weapon I walked out of there with. It's the one I'm going to keep with me. Mm-hmm. It's the one I made by hand.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, there's like something about the Odysseus of it all. And actually now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you know what Odysseus uses that bow on? The suitors. Allison's defending her home. She's defending. Mm-hmm. Is Allison actually Odysseus? Defending her home from invaders?
Every character gets to be Odysseus, including Allison.
Also, I love that we finally get to see Annabeth fight. I think this is the first time we really get to see her fight.
I have this in all bold in my document. I was so thrilled to actually see Annabeth fight. Because, like, in the books, she is scrappy. She's a fighter. We just haven't gotten to see that at all in the show. And she fights like Luke. There's a shot of him, like, flipping Percy. Like, he, like, once Percy actually disarms Luke, Luke grabs him. Well, he punches him in the leg.
That was, like, the hardest blow to me was that punch to the leg. Yeah. He's like trying to take him down.
And he flips him onto the floor. And then it cuts to Annabeth flipping a guy onto the floor in the exact same way. And then like punching him in the face.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, the two people who learned from you, Luke, they're on your ship and they're fighting back.
That being said, the moment Luke disarms Percy, he caught his sword arm. He had Percy completely at his mercy. And he could have done so many things. And he chose, like, by far the least harmful option. And I feel like it's almost like time, like, he grabs him and the action stops for a second. A split second, but still a second, considering the, like, pace at which they're going. It stops long enough that it felt like this, like, maybe Luke pivoted into a more merciful option.
No, there are a couple times throughout this fight where Luke is choosing not to kill Percy.
Yeah. Capture, not kill, if you will.
Capture, not kill. There's also the moment where it's almost like he knocks the wind out of him and he just, like, lets Percy catch his breath before they start fighting again. Mm-hmm. He's trying to hurt him. He's not at kill yet.
No.
I think he might be by the end of this episode.
So they're also struggling over the fleece, Luke's trying to bring it back to the sarcophagus. And then, like, what ends this fight is Percy kind of knocking into the sarcophagus and the sarcophagus knocking over. And Luke's like, oh my god, and he, like, has to kind of lift it, and he ends up getting kind of stuck holding the coffin up, which lets Percy escape. And I wrote, it's giving Titan's curse.
It is giving Titan's curse a little bit.
But, like, you could have let that fall, Luke. I'm sure Kronos wouldn't have minded. But just, like, this feeling of, like, being trapped by, like, your otherworldly force, unable to, like, move. There's something there where I was like, this feels. I think there's been a few moments where I've seen people being like, it's giving Titan's curse holding the sky. This is that one.
No,
for
I
me.
think when Luke is holding up the sky, he is holding up the weight of the Kronos coffin, the Kronos quest in doing that. That's the entire reason he's doing it. So this is just a literal version of that.
But Percy grabs the fleece, escapes, gets to the elevator. Heart was pounding at this point. I was like when he's like pounding those buttons, I felt that.
But Luke manages to escape from the weight of the world on his shoulders and stabs Percy in the stomach through the closing elevator doors.
I yelled
I gasped. This is what I told you. I gasped at something and then remembered it happened in the book.
That happens in the book?
Percy gets stabbed in the book, and I completely forgot.
He
gets stabbed in his fight with Luke, and, like, he doesn't think he's going to make it. He's like, I'm bleeding out. It's over. And I completely forgot until he stabbed him, and I was like, oh my God, wait, I knew that.
I forgot. I was like, I was literally, like, out loud being like, put on the fleece. Put on the fleece. And, like, knowing in my head, he's going to do it.
He even did it fast. Why were you begging him so hard?
It was a long couple seconds where I was like, what are you doing? Because he was just like, he put it down. And I was like, what are you doing? Pick it back up.
He just got stabbed. You can't blame him.
I did notice, by the way, he's on floor 12 when he gets stabbed. The detail.
So meaning that Luke has placed himself on the 12th floor.
Yeah, 12 Olympian gods.
Something I didn't notice until I rewatched it, and I should have, because the camera lingers. The invisibility cap falls on the floor and Percy leaves it behind. Yeah.
I mean, the camera, yeah, you watch it and it lingers. I didn't think about the implications. Oh, no.
Yeah, oh no.
I didn't think about that at all. Oh, the symmetry of it is so good. Because we talked so much last time about how Luke takes the knife, leaves the cap. And then this time he says things always end... Oh, I forget the exact line. Things end up where they should. Where they should.
I don't know what this means.
I think it means Luke is going to do something fucked up in that invisibility.
I know. That's what I'm afraid of.
Luke is going to play a trick on his homecoming Phoebe. Oh, God. And then we get one of my favorite exchanges in this episode in terms of comedy, which is Annabeth and Clarice. I love this moment because I think you mentioned this earlier, where, like, we start this episode with Percy and Clarice at odds. Mm-hmm. And Clarice being like, no, we've got to go to the fleece. You can't go for Annabeth. And Percy being like, well, I'm going to go for Annabeth. You go for the fleece. And both of them enter the Princess Andromeda with every intention of fulfilling their mission. Percy overhears, he does reach Annabeth, but then he overhears something that leads him to go to the fleece. Clarice, meanwhile, enters the Princess Andromeda and overhears something that leads her to go to Annabeth. And I'm obsessed with that.
My two sides of the coin. Yeah. My original two sides of the coin.
And just, like, I don't know, it feels like such a neat little resolution to that as well. And again, to quote Luke, call back to everything ends up... What is the line?
Everything goes where it's gonna go, is just like Luke said.
Things always end up where they should. That invisibility cap is in his hands for a reason. Likewise, Percy and Clarice end up where they should. And Clarice refers to Percy as sea twerp, which is what Ares calls him. But this time it feels like with affection.
Yeah.
I just love, it's just so Percy Jackson of like, what, you think Percy's going to get the fleece? To the immediate alarm blaring. And then and her being like, this doesn't mean he got it. And it's like, yes, he did. Yes, it does, actually.
Yes, he did. Of course, some chaos happened upstairs and now he has it.
Blackjack saves the day. Percy
apologizes to Clarice.
He apologizes for using her prophecy against her. He basically, he gives a real apology. I mean, like, I'm sorry. This is how I hurt you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting scene, though, because he kind of has to, like, re-examine this prophecy again and let me show you how to interpret it and let me show you how I'm helping you.
Yeah.
Like, how do I convince you that I'm not trying to take this from you, but just trying to help you?
Because every interpretation that she's had, it's just gotten worse and worse over the course of this season. And she's felt like she's going to fail, she's going to die by the end of this.
Yeah.
So for Percy to reinterpret her prophecy in a positive light, it's something that it feels like she hasn't allowed herself to even consider yet. Mm-hmm. She just sort of spiraled and spiraled deeper.
Feels like, finally prophecy is being used for good here. It's like another subversion of it, where it's like, oh, now instead of, even earlier in this episode, using it against you, we're actually going to use it to get something right.
To, like, shine light on the solution, yeah. Mm-hmm. Last time that'll happen.
Yeah.
Actually, the last time that'll happen will be when it's like, Percy, you have to make the choice.
Yeah. So then Percy gets picked up by Sally, and both Grover and Annabeth are just, like, so excited about bringing Thalia back.
I know. Annabeth sounds like she sounds like such a little kid in this moment with all of her questions. It's like she reverts right back to being Thalia's little sister at the prospect of her being back. Mm. They're just sitting back there being like, Percy, can you believe it? Like,
Yeah.
how long do you think it'll take for Thalia to come back? You think she'll be there when we get there? And I was like, oh, Annabeth.
And the whole time also Sally is clocking that Percy is not bringing the same energy into this conversation. And then we see Percy reflect and think back to his dream. And this is when I was thinking about dreams, because we also kind of bookend this episode with Annabeth's Thalia dream and Percy's Thalia dream. Sally being in the car with them as Percy sort of reflecting on his dream, that's like bookending Annabeth's dream. I was sort of like, I wonder, like the connection to Sally's dream, since this is the last time we saw her before this. I just felt like...
Right. That reminder of the truth that's in your dreams.
Yeah, all of them have dreamt this, but from very different perspectives and in very different ways. And all of their dreams culminate in this question of which side is Thalia going to land on.
Yeah, and we get this this line from Grover as Percy's thinking about it, where he says, when two equally powerful forces collide, there's no telling what could happen. Which feels almost like the you could be best friends or worst enemies line in another form. I mean, I don't know if Percy's thinking of it this way. You know, he's probably thinking, there's no telling what could happen. There's no telling what side Thalia could be on. I have a sneaking suspicion it might be Kronos' side. But that line underneath that thought from him, I was like, oh, you are one of those things, though. Like, when the two of you collide next season.
And then we get this last scene with Luke and Kronos. I didn't fully believe that Luke didn't know yet, you know? Like, on my first watch, I was, like, still processing. And so, like, this moment where Luke confronts Kronos about it, it hit real hard.
I never believed that Luke knew, like we talked about, but what was hitting me about this scene was realizing how hard Kronos has been fighting to, like, not let Luke know. Because, at least in the book, bringing Thalia back is a part of Kronos' plan. In this episode, Kronos is fighting so hard not to let that fleece go back to camp that I was like, is that still a part of his plan? I feel like it must be, but the plan might just be like, let me have the fleece until I'm healed enough and then I'll tell him. And if that's what we're doing, it's like, of course he wouldn't tell Luke. Because if Luke knew, it would compromise everything in the same way that, like, it's the same situation that Percy was put in last episode, where it's like, if you have to choose between Thalia and the quest, what is he going to do? And he doesn't want to let Luke end up in that position. So he doesn't tell Luke that Thalia is even a part of it. It just compromises everything for Luke to have that information, because he might just give it all up. And let them have the fleece.
Which is such a good parallel with Percy.
But it does make me wonder, like, how much Thalia is a part of this anymore. Because, like, we know by the end of this episode, Kronos is thinking the same thing that he's thinking in the book, which is Percy is an unreliable weapon and he needs to be replaced. Thalia seems like the easiest candidate for that. So I feel like she should still be a part of the plan, especially when your army's like this. When your army is, like, turning on their leader and, like, all being driven by their own wants. No one seems fully under your control. I don't know. I'm just very curious where we're going with this for the next episode. This scene is also a very good illustration of what we see in the books of that transition for Luke from confident leader to I have lost control of the situation. And the transition into, like, violence and mental torture toward Luke. Which, like, we talked about this last season, like I think mentioned already in this episode, of the way that Kronos talks to Luke versus the way that he talks to Percy in season 1, where the manipulation is there already and, like, the threats are there already. This, to me, feels like something new, though. Like, this feels like an escalation.
Yeah. And the way Luke says, I've sacrificed everything for you, too.
I'm loyal.
Yeah, which, again, Percy-Luke parallels. He's just giving and giving. And then we end the episode on Kronos saying, then prove it. The time for your mercy is over. Which, again, that confirmed kind of what I was feeling, that he was holding back against Percy still. I think up until he's holding the coffin, he ran out of there to stab Percy.
But, I mean, he's also holding the fleece. He might be thinking, slow Percy down. But he also doesn't go after him. Like, the scene that follows that fight, there's very little, like, urgency in any of them. They're all just like, I'm so sorry, Clarice. And I was like, you guys gotta move. Luke is coming, and he's angry, and he tried to kill you. But then he doesn't show up, and it cuts back to him, and he's just in that room still. It feels almost like he's just been standing there trying to figure out how to mention this, how to bring this up to Kronos. Standing at his window, knowing Percy's getting away. Like, you know, he's probably thinking, what if Percy makes it back and it really works?
I love that we're ending this episode with Luke's faith. Well, it can go one of two ways, right? He could either go into next episode with his faith completely shaken, or it could be a double down situation, considering Kronos has sort of really extremely reprimanded him at this point.
I think it's kind of both at this point. You know, considering the Luke that we see in book 3, book 4, he is not doing well. He's not as confident in this. He kind of wants out for the rest of the series. And so I've loved in this episode watching that faith get shaken.
Yeah.
Because it's something that mostly happens off screen in the books. And to me, seems to come up in the books from, like, learning Kronos' plan for him. But here, it's much more complicated than that. And I think will only get more complicated as he learns that.
Yeah. I was just thinking, too, I don't know, thinking about, like, how these kind of situations tend to work. It's interesting as well seeing the, like, lighthearted camaraderie amongst everyone else, knowing that, like, this is what's happening to Luke upstairs.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's a part of him that's also starting to come to terms with the fact that, like, he's kind of leaving one abusive, godly figure for another.
That's why I'm saying that part of the horror of this realization is that he's been a pawn this whole time. Like, he hasn't known what Kronos' true plans were for him, or what Kronos intended. Hasn't been told the full story, that he was being used in some way.
Yeah.
But it's hard to stop at this point. I think he's going to go into the next episode feeling like he does need to prove it to Kronos that he means this. I can't imagine what... Thalia coming back is going to...
Well, that's sort of the thing. Like, again, like, I'm watching it, like, I don't know where she's going to land at the beginning of coming back. I don't know. We know there's a battle. Percy giving a rousing speech in the preview for the next episode.
Right, yeah.
Can't wait to close the loop on Tantalus.
The biggest question of episode 8. What will happen to Tantalus? What is our bead for episode 7? It feels too early to give it to Annabeth's dagger. Maybe Thalia's tree with, like, the light shining through it, through all the cracks.
I think for me, maybe it's the Hydra Mythomagic card. I don't know. I just like all the rogue demigods playing Mythomagic together. Actually, I changed my mind. It's Alison's bow. Odysseus' bow.
Right, yeah.
Because, oh my god, because he shoots it through the axes, and Clarice picks up an axe, Phoebe. It's all there! Thank you all for listening to Monster Donut. Next time, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Season 2, Episode 8, the final episode. Please let us know what you thought of this episode. Comment wherever you're listening to it, whether it's on Spotify, YouTube. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your responses, your reactions. Or else if you have any of your own analysis you want to share with us, potentially to also be shared in our wrap-up episode for Season 2. You can email that to us at monsterdonutpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on our website or on social media. We're at PJOpod on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. Across all of our social media, you can also find our link tree with our website, with our merch, which is monsterdonut.redbubble.com. Also, if you want your Monster Donut t-shirts, Monster Donut staff t-shirts, we have some new ones up right now in light of this season. Phoebe's an incredible artist, and you should always be wearing her stuff.
Thank you.
If you are at all interested in supporting the podcast monetarily, you can also find links to our Ko-fi or our Patreon. And we do post some bonus content on Patreon for y'all, just as an extra thank you for supporting the podcast, which will include, after episode 8, a hotel room episode about our set visit that we recorded the second night we were in Vancouver. Also, when we end up doing interviews, you will get a heads up and be able to submit questions. So if you're all interested by that, You can join us on there. Otherwise, if you're not able to support us monetarily, it always helps to leave a rating or review or recommend us to a friend if you're enjoying the pod. That being said, thank you to our patrons.
Latino Kaya, Patty VCK, Bethany from Public Works, Sydney Fox, Joke, Reina Abilo Ramirez Arellano, Bronte Lebo, Ethan Not Nakamura, Kels, Mason Bowman, Casey Cassidy, Busy Cat, Natalia, Melissa Rounds, Cake Coffee, Sasha, Alana, Pamela Ion, The Kid on Her Own, Grace Hunker, Kaylee, Mana Munchian, Calamity, Eddie Burns, Sarah Brown, Colby Redfern, Theseus, May, Anna, Christina, Bad Luck, B, Faster, Austin Savat, and James Alexander. Thank you all so much for being with us.
Thank you.
I can't wait for the next episode.
I know.
Goodbye.
Bye.